Hello, and welcome to the Marketing Reef Get More Customers. I'm your host, Karen Bartle, and I'm joined by some fabulous guests today. Some amazing guests that have got some great experience online in the social space, and particularly in terms of advertising businesses. So I'm going to bring my guests in. So I'll bring my first guest in, Mitchell. Come on in.
Hi, how you going, Karen? Good, very well.
And my second guest I'll bring in will be Joe. Come on in, Joe.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, and then we have William, or Will.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And you've got a lot of knowledge and skill going on between us for sure today. A lot of gems of wisdom are going to be shared on this show. It's going to be awesome. So just tell us a little bit, Mitchell, about you and where you are and what you do.
Yep. So basically, we're located on the Central Coast in New South Wales. Used to be located in Sydney until about 2 years ago. Since about 2012, I've run an advertising agency called LBD Marketing. Basically, we focus on all paid Facebook ads and Instagram ads. We don't do any organic. It's all paid. So our goal is all lead focused. So generally we usually work in 90% of the cases work with service-based businesses that are looking to generate leads and for their service, obviously. So that's me in a nutshell.
Good stuff. Welcome to the show. And tell us a little bit, Joe, about what you're up to, where you are and what you do.
So I'm currently in Cambodia, actually. I'm a digital nomad, so I'm location independent.
Wow.
I've been working in the social media space for about 6 years now. Before that, I was a university lecturer teaching media and marketing. So I primarily work with e-commerce businesses and do paid traffic, but I've actually looped back around recently to doing some more teaching, getting back in the classroom, helping brands to improve their organic content and make sales through there.
How amazing is that? How amazing is to be able to be a nomad, a digital media nomad and travel around the world, eh? That is the
crazy life.
Living the dream, of course. And Will, tell us a little bit about what you do and where you are.
Sure. So I'm in a place called Hepburn Springs, which is central Victoria, about 90 minutes out of Melbourne. I've been a marketing nerd since my teenage years, and I started off in the corporate world and pretty much hated that from the start, but it took me about 12 years to remove myself from that environment and start my own business in 2003. So I work, a bit like Mitchell, I probably work mainly with services, just because you've got a lot of scope there from a marketing perspective, but I look at their overall marketing strategy and things like getting their websites right, their copy right, their offers right, that sort of stuff. Their point of difference is a key thing that I work on with a lot of businesses.
Yeah, for sure. So welcome. So today we're going to be talking about predominantly social media advertising. That could be free, that could be paid for. Obviously, you've got a choice these days to do whatever your business needs. And for some people, they prefer not to have to pay. But we're going to talk today about some of the great things about using paid advertising, but also there are some downsides, some pitfalls to avoid, especially if you're just starting out, right? Would some of you like to just jump in and share some of those things that you see people do that you think could be avoidable, that would actually be better for their business if they didn't do those things?
I've got a...
Yeah,
well,
there we go.
I was going to say, considering the other sort of their wheelhouse is solely paid traffic, I thought maybe I'd speak to organic a little bit. It's something I see people do pretty frequently there. The first is that they treat Facebook and Instagram as twins, not sisters. They're actually completely different platforms with completely different modes of engagement. And while you may find that the same content works for you on both platforms, it's not always the case. You may end up with two completely different audiences. The way the posts are formatted is different. I audited an account the other day where a post made perfect sense on Instagram because people saw the image first and then they read the text. But then on Facebook, they just shared that post across as is. So people read the text first, and it just made people sort of just like, what? And if you give people sort of that moment of confusion or pause, they're not going to commit and keep reading. So So expecting that they can just share posts across between the platforms and just have it work every time is a common one. The other one that I see a lot is people spending no time on their organic or putting all of their energy into a group instead of their page. What you do on your pages and profiles will actually significantly impact your ad costs, especially now that Facebook is weighing in social proof higher than it ever has before. I've run a number of tests, and some of the people I work with in my mastermind, I'm in a mastermind with Ezra Firestone and Molly Pittman, and they've run a number of tests that just show it's mind-boggling how much your ad costs decrease if you spend some time on building up your organic and social proof. So a lot of people think, I can just run ads. But if you spend some time on your organic, it's the stats don't lie. It's Facebook is looking for proof that that people like your content, that it's going to give rise to good user experience, whether that's an ad or an organic post. So spending a bit of time on your page is one of the best things you can actually do for your paid advertising.
That makes sened. Did you want to jump in there, Mitch? Or have you seen some kind of things going on that you think, I'm not sure about that?
well, two things. Just going on what Joe said about the differences between Facebook and Instagram. One pet hate of mine is when people use the same content from Facebook to Instagram, but they include a link in Instagram when it's not clickable. That's
or the handles on Facebook.
Well, it's a little obvious that it's just a copy and paste job. But going to, I guess, my specialty in paid traffic, the biggest issue I find is when people are sending paid traffic to just their homepage for two reasons. When you're doing paid traffic, you have a relevance score, just like you would in an AdWords campaign. And if the ad copy and the landing page don't have any sync, which they usually wouldn't if it's just the homepage, your relevance score will be lower and your costs will be higher. And you got to think of it in a point where if you're writing good ad copy and they're engaged with that and they've taken the time to click, if they then go to a page which doesn't simulate what they've just read to give you more information, such as instead of using a landing page, you just wasted that click. That's one thing. So I always tell my client it's the perfect Facebook ad is made up of three steps. So audience, offer, and destination. So audience, obviously who you're targeting. The offer is what the ad copy is and giving it a bit of wow factor. Don't be bland. Give a specific offer. And then the destination is the landing page where they go. So that's just my little pet hate that I find that a lot of people do, and it never works.
Yeah, well, obviously behind the scenes is where you guys are at, and you kind of see the evidence that says that really doesn't need to happen. That doesn't work too well. Yeah. Whereas for a customer, the other end, they hand it over to you guys. They're like, I'm handing it over because I ain't got a clue, to be honest.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's what you're there for. That's the awesome part. And well, what can you suggest that people would, that you've seen that would be best for them to avoid online in their advertising?
And there's a few things. One, you need to keep in mind why people are on a platform. So it is a social media. It's not not a advertising. It is an advertising tool, but people aren't on there to look at ads and buy products, even though they will do it. So you've got to sort of bear in mind the environment. The biggest two mistakes I probably see, one is that people don't either take the time to understand or express what's in it for me as a client in the right way. They do it really obscurely, or they, I saw a great example the other day. Car companies are always advertising comparison rates. So they'll show a picture of their new car and then they'll have comparison rate. I don't even know what a comparison rate is. Maybe I'm the only one in Australia and the world that doesn't know that, but I suspect that's not the case. So use the language of the customers. And the other big one that people make is making the wrong offers to people at the wrong time. So if you go and you show an ad to someone who's never heard of you before, and you want them to make a purchase, or you want them to sign up for a call or something like that that requires a commitment, even if it's free, it's still a commitment, and there's still risk associated with that transaction from the client perspective. So if you're asking people to do too much before they even get to know you, you're not going to have success with the ads. And I see that all the time. You've actually got to build the relationship and warm the audience up and then make offers. So it's a process. It's not an instant type thing. So there are a couple of ones I see.
Good advice.
That's a good point, especially for really high ticket services such as business coaches and stuff like that. they might want to just get general inquiries for a $2,000 a month service or whatever they charge, and with no prior knowledge of them. And they all want to be, you know, your Gary V's and your Grant Cardones. But if you look at them, they do so much content to build trust before they signal out an ad for a retargeting ad for an offer. And it's very hard to explain to a client sometimes that you might need to spend some money on, you know, video views and you know, just giving away content when there's not an immediate return on investment on that to build trust to get the client initially. And they just think it's, you know, a direct response ad where here's what we offer, buy now. But I guess the best way to explain that, if you were doing a cold call and you said, you know, my name's John Smith, I'm a business coach, my service is $2,000 a month, sign up here over the phone, you get hung up on every single time. So sometimes you've got to express your ad copy in a way if you were talking to someone face to face. And yeah, that especially when providing content prior to that.
Yeah, the other it's interesting as well with that with funnels and things. Sort of the length of your funnel should sort of be proportionate to the amount you're asking somebody to spend. But I often find people think about that investment only in terms of money, whereas I've found asking someone for their time is often sometimes hard. Like if you're asking someone for like a week of their time or a month of their time, sometimes it can almost be harder to get people to spend a day with you for free than it can be to get them to give you a relatively large amount of money. So I think people need to think about what are you asking the customer or client for, and don't just think about it in terms of dollars. If you're asking them to give you a significant amount of trust, to tell you really personal stuff about themselves, or let you into their family life or something like that, or a high amount of money or a significant amount of their time. Like if I said to you, look, you can either give me an hour of your undivided attention or you can give me $20, you'd probably give me the $20. Like time is probably the hardest thing I find generally to get people to part with. So so
especially
even if your services, so you go.
Yeah, especially when you're marketing free events, a lot of clients just think, oh, everyone would come. But if they're a full day event during the week, you're missing out on a full day of, if you're a business owner, for example, you're missing out on a full day of productivity at work, right? And everyone's different on what they value that as. But like we have a client that does business events, and he has two different structures. He has a night event where it's 6 to 9 or a full day event. And the cost per registration or lead, or however you want to display it, is nearly a third when he does a night event, because people don't feel that they're taken away. But then again, if you have a young family, that night event might not be suitable for you. So you prefer the young one. So it's a little bit of pull and take there. But yeah, you're 100% right, because you're not just giving away, it's not the price of the ticket always, it's the price of their time.
Absolutely. And I get all the time, I get people on LinkedIn especially, I would say, mostly on LinkedIn, I get people just shooting me a message and saying, hey, Karen, how about we jump on a call for 15 minutes? I'm like, do you realize how much my 15 minutes is worth? And I don't even know who you are.
He's like, how about you send me an email and then I'll see if you're worth my 15 minutes.
LinkedIn's really bad for that. You get someone connect, and then you get a canned sales pitch or a request for a call, and you just go, hang on, like, do you have something of value to offer me? Well, you know, often they do, but they haven't actually thought through it from the client's perspective. That's the thing that's missing. Everyone's trying to sell their stuff. You actually got to think about it from the client's perspective. If you put an offer out initially through LinkedIn that gives me some help with something that might be important to me, or ask me a question that engages me, then you've got a chance of doing something. But if you go straight for the sale, just delete, ignore all day, every day on LinkedIn. It's not as bad on other platforms, but LinkedIn's really like that.
It's terrible.
I would say it can almost be worse on Facebook, because on LinkedIn, at least, it's not against the terms of service. Whereas on Facebook, I think a lot of businesses don't realize, like, they're in a Facebook group, they see someone saying, I need help with this. They haven't said anywhere it's okay to private message me. And the person sees them a PM, that's actually against the terms of service from the Messenger platform.
And the group rules usually.
Which people just don't realise. And then they get banned, they get removed from the platform, not allowed to advertise, and they're just like, wait, what happened? I'm like, terms of service. It's a thing that you need to follow.
The thing is, when I get those messages, it doesn't leave you feeling good. It makes you you're left feeling, I just I allowed you to connect to my network. and now you're pitching to me immediately. Right, you're off. And I let go of them because I think that's all I'm worth. Then it doesn't leave the customer feeling good, does it?
No,
Yeah,
absolutely not.
It's so easy to think about marketing in terms of B2B, B2C, all of that sort of thing, all these terms we throw around. But at the end of the day, marketing is human to human. You know, if you can have a human connection, a human conversation, if you can show up on platforms and be authentic and offer something of value. Something I often say to my coaching clients is you just have to remember you're not the hero of the story here. Your customer or client is, you're just the guide who's getting them from where they are now to where they want to go. So it's just you gotta work on that relationship building.
You've got to empathy. You've got to get into the position of your client, right? And think about what would they feel about this. What would they think if you did this?
Yeah, I think Will would agree here because he said he does mostly service-based clients as well. Being all of us being service-based, I think the internet's a great way, and social media in general is a great way to generate leads. Whether it be paid or organic, but in my experience, it's very rare where I'll get a client where I don't call them or meet them. I usually call them where I build that interaction and that trust over the phone first. So it's a great entry point, but in an old school sense, it's still phone and face to face. More phone these days, where you close the sale. It's very rare that I get an email saying, "Hey, I want to sign up," and then they just pay me. And then that happens. It's usually, converse from the call. So I still think
the only times, I was gonna say the only times that ever has happened to me, it's we've built a relationship already in Facebook groups and things like that. It's never just a cold,
or it's a referral where someone else has done the selling for you.
Basically.
You still would typically jump on a call. It'll just be a different call. So it'll be a warm call if they know you from groups or they've been referred. I always have a call. I often say to people in services business, have a like a triage type call, just a short call. Most people know the triage system in an emergency room in a hospital. You walk in, are you about to die now? They treat you differently as opposed to if you've got a bit of a cough and so they quickly ask you some questions to work out what they need to do next. Same sort of thing in the business. My inclination is always jump on a call. Understand what the person's problems are. Can I help? Do they want help? Can they afford help? All those sort of things. And my aim with those is always leave them better off whether they become a client or not. But it's always a call. If you're going to sell something of any value, it's a bit different if you're selling a $9.95 bottle of face cream or something, or you don't have to worry about that. But I would argue that you're always trying to build a long-term relationship with the client. And you have to have that long-term mindset. So the
calls are really important there too, just in terms of your own. There's definitely been times, I'm sure you guys are the same, where you've been on a call with somebody and on paper it all looks good, but the energy just isn't. I mean, I know that sounds a little bit, but I think people don't put enough stock in this feels good. Like there's a lot of very talented people out there doing social media. And what it may come down to for some people is just the working relationship. And that call really does help you determine sort of by the end of that top 15 minutes, you have a pretty good idea of whether this is somebody who I want to work with or whether they're going to be the world's biggest headache, which may not be anything about you or anything about them. It just might not be.
I think I could quite right. The first minute there, Joe, to be honest.
Right.
You can tell quickly. And you should trust your instincts on that one because every time I've overridden them or I've had a financial imperative, as we do in small business, you kind of know at the time, I'm probably going to regret this, but I need to say yes to it right now. And you always regret it.
So it's usually when they ask
trust your instincts.
It's usually when they ask for a discount or a change to your normal terms. It's usually a red flag that they're going to be double the work for less money.
They want a guaranteed concrete number for return on investment. It's like I haven't even looked at your ad account yet. And I don't know if Facebook is going to go down. I don't know if your website is going to crash. I don't know if the apocalypse is going to come. That's a common one as well. That people it's like I want to know if you can get me this number, and it's like, well, as much as I wish I could see the future. You can sort of give people guidelines, but anyone who asks for a guarantee is usually a bit of a red flag in terms of how long they've been in their own business too.
There's a pressure that we don't put on ourselves when we gamble on this advertising business, but when you're charging as a service, there's always a pressure to perform, isn't there? There's always a pressure to get results, but in fact it's only the same if you were to put it on yourself. You may know a little bit more about it, but you still don't know what the algorithm's up to, and who's going to kind of flick past it and forget about it, and who's actually going to come back to it later. And there's also delays, isn't there? There's delays. A lot of people think it needs to be a quick. But what I find is that you can put something out, and somebody may call you a year later, and you think, "Wow, where did that?" Because delay, isn't there, between people seeing your advert, seeing what you're putting out there, and thinking that they don't actually need it right now, but they may tell some people about it. But the fact is, they may come to you in 6 months, a year time, and think, what, I saw you back then, and I weren't ready for it, but now I am. And are you still doing it? And
those lag times, even in e-commerce, where you generally have quite a short turnaround time. Like I've got, service-based clients or coaching clients who are business coaches. They have sort of $2,000 programs. So obviously, naturally, the lead time there is always going to be longer between seeing first ad and sale. But even in e-commerce, where you usually would see a really fast turnover, we are finding that those times between sort of seeing and buying are getting longer and longer, which is why, good retargeting strategy is a powerful thing. A lot of e-commerce businesses now are making about 30% of their revenue from email. Just people who sign up to get a discount or get onto the mailing list and don't buy right away. But when they run a sale, I know. I was in Denver with a business. He's doing about 8 figures a year now, selling sports equipment. Sort of not enormously high end, but these days he's saying almost. He reckons soon it'll be about 50% of his revenue is going to end up being email. He'll start, with Facebook ad costs getting higher. He reckons he'll get to a point he's going to break even on the initial sale, and then his, focusing on the lifetime value, that his profit is really going to come from email.
That's it.
Follow up.
So just on that e-commerce chat, I have a client that his main product it's a bit weird, but he sells like those Holden and Ford supercar model cars. And they're not cheap. They're about $200-300 each, right? But he has just a really burnt-on audience that just love them, right? Because he gets ones that you can't buy in hobby shops and stuff like that. Anyway, so
his lifetime value would be insane.
Yep. So the margins on the product, the average one's about $250. The margin's about 60%, right, for what he pays for them, and his cost per sale is about $10. So he's literally printing money. And one guy bought $15,000 worth off one sale. So he bought like 70 of them or whatever it was. He's found that he started Afterpay 6 months ago on his site. And since then, his conversion rate from click to sale has increased by 3 times. He's getting 3 times the amount of sales from the Afterpay. And they charge a 5% fee on his, but most credit card merchants about 2 anyway, so it's worth it for him just to get them over the line. So that's a really good one, a good example. But just for people that don't know what Afterpay is, Mitchell. So Afterpay's a setup where it's like a lay-by, but you get it straight away. So you pay in 4 installments. So if the product's $40, you pay $10 up front, and every 2 weeks after that, they charge your credit card $10, the even 4 installments. So it's like
allows people to pay over over time.
So that might be like the thing with e-commerce. You could find that extended times is they're waiting for their pay to come in, whether they get paid weekly, fortnightly, monthly, as well. So with Afterpay, that sort of reduces that because they might have a little bit in there, but they don't have enough to pay it off. So
plus Afterpay will chase that up for you, so you don't have to deal with split payments can sometimes be a bit of a nightmare in terms of people bailing and things like that. But Afterpay sort of takes care of that.
Yeah, that's right. So once after take the payment, they give it to you in full, minus that 5%, so 95%, and then you don't have to worry about it. Afterpay will send the customer SMS 2 days before it's supposed to come out saying it's due on Friday or whatever. But if you skip that payment, it's like a $30 fee. So that's how they make their money as well. So but
Cool.
Yeah, not that it's overly great for people, buying everything on credit, but from an e-commerce point of view, if you can take advantage of it, it's just very hard to get approved for Afterpay as well. So you've got to be established business and all that. So yeah.
Okay.
One thing that I want to mention that's interesting is as the costs vary for online stuff. So we've seen Facebook ad costs generally go up a lot. There's lots of different ways to do it and get lower cost. And Mitchell talked about relevance and using video view campaigns first and all those different things. People are often ignoring traditional channels from sort of pre-internet time. We may actually see a point, in fact, it probably already exists, where the economy of some of that stuff actually stacks up pretty well by comparison. So I certainly wouldn't ignore direct mail, and I certainly would look strongly at public relations, because I don't see a lot of people do much with that. But most businesses have some sort of story or some sort of inherent interest in what they do. So I encourage people to just have a look at those channels as well, because there's an enormous opportunity in both of those, and the costs can be pretty attractive. Direct mail, particularly for business to business, is quite an interesting one as well, because very few people are doing it, and very few people are doing it in an interesting way.
Yeah, I actually have
I would say it depends on what town or where you are too, because if people come to me and they're from Byron Bay, because I lived there for a little while, I'm like, look, you could put your money into Facebook ads. Look, I'm a Facebook ad specialist. If I think this will be profitable, I will 100% take your money. But if you're in Byron, everyone reads the Echo and everyone reads the notice board outside the Green Garage. So I said, look, if you've got a low budget, if you can't afford my fees, or you're not you're not able to invest the amount of Facebook ads that you would need to make a good return there. That's actually something I do find as well, as people don't spend enough. Like, say their website conversion rate is 2%, but they're only spending enough to get 50 people to their website. They're not going to make sales. But yeah, I often say to people, if you haven't got much budget and you're living in a small town like that, everybody in Byron picks up the Echo every week and reads it, including classifieds. So I just say to them, look, if you've got a little bit of budget and you need to put it somewhere, put it in that paper. Because location can come into it a lot too. Some towns are just small, word of mouth, and Byron's very much like that for sure. Word of mouth is king, and the Echo and the notice board. When people go and get their coffee, have a look at the notices. More likely to be doing that than be on their phone. So,
I have an ironic client, because he does Facebook ads with us to get business. He's target market is B2B, but his whole thing is the company's name is called Send Handwritten, and basically he gets people and businesses that want to send like direct mail or thank you notes to existing clients, but they do it on like a really like a Harry Potter style, like wax envelope with a nice stamp and all that, and every single one is handwritten. So so it's
that is literally the plot of a Spike Jonze film. That's a bit scary, but awesome.
But it works. So his average client gets a 300% return on sales after the cost. So you've got to do like a minimum. So it's not for like small business or anything, but he has a team that basically handwriting all day.
Like little elves.
I know, like he's going to have a compo playing for us all this soon. But anyway, but yeah, that's his whole business model. And the wow factor is in the envelope. So they open it and then they get it, it's handwritten. And it's just something different that they're not expecting to see.
It's that personal touch, isn't it? It feels like you've gone to some effort. Just send me this.
The relationship doesn't end with the sale. I know a few of the big e-commerce brands in the US have just invested a huge amount of money in packaging, because they want people to have that moment of, oh my God, when they open the package, because then they post that on Facebook and Instagram. You can't go past user-generated content. You show a video or a photo of someone loving a product or loving something, that speaks so powerfully to others who are thinking about using that product or service. And also it increases your, lifetime value too. If someone receives a package in the mail and it's all kind of just, wrapped up roughly, but if they receive a package in the mail and it's like next level fun to receive, you're more likely, I would say, if they love the product and they love the experience of getting it, the experience of having it, your lifetime value is going to go up, which, obviously is a good thing with Facebook ads. You pay for, say, that initial sale. You can actually still keep building the profits. I mean, in e-commerce at least, you can keep sort of building the profit that you make from that client just through, what you do after. I mean, handwritten letters, I can see how that would be a game changer for some businesses for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
and even very small businesses could do that on a small scale,
Absolutely.
in their community, sending to local businesses, or, depending on whether it's about getting referrals and creating a referral network, or whether it's to, directly to market to people for the service or product that they're selling. It definitely could work for sure.
I've seen someone get Kmart as a client in the automotive area by sending a silver platter with a direct mail attached to it. And at LinkedIn, I read another one this morning, which was about someone sending prepaid mobile phones to people turned on. And they only sent out 10 or 20 of them, and they paid about $25 for the phones. They weren't iPhones, obviously. They were just phones that you could buy at a supermarket. And they got an incredible callback rate, because who does that? Who sends someone a mobile phone? It's like, hang on, who the hell is sending me a mobile phone? You almost can't not respond if you really think it through and get the approach right. Or worst case scenario, they have a really positive impression of you. And to go to Joe's point, that carries through into packaging. You look at Apple's packaging. I like getting iPhones for the packaging, and I don't use MacBook Pros, but I'm on a PC still. But I want a MacBook Pro partly for the packaging and those other things. It's different reasons.
Yeah, I like my iPhone for Angry Birds.
Yeah,
that's my.
Well, even on that, prior to me starting my own agency, I worked for an NRL club, and we used to get like cupcakes that were branded with the team's logo on them, and then once you took away the 9 cupcakes or whatever, it would have it was like an Officeworks, not Officeworks, but someone else that does the same thing for stationery, and it would have their catalog underneath it. So then you read it and order it, but it's the whole thing is like, you get the wow factor. Everyone has one. Oh, what's underneath? So little things like that they do because they knew it was going to be a big client. So little things like that can be, but could be hit and miss too.
For sure. So for people that are watching and are on Facebook or Instagram, because I've tried, I don't particularly myself use Instagram, but I do use Facebook and LinkedIn, organic advertising and paid advertising. What's the kind of things if they're on a low kind of budget, they don't want to spend too much, they want to give it a try, what's the best kind of thing that they can do with their paid advertising on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, indeed? Because I don't know a lot about Instagram paid advertising, but that would be awesome to talk about too.
I would say if they have a fairly low budget, right now a really cheap and effective placement is Instagram story carousels. If you can get a carousel up there, they have to flick through 3 different screens. And they sort of got you sort of with them for a little bit longer than you would with a traditional Instagram story ad. I mean, it can be very visually appealing. The key to making it work is just having your story image being compelling enough that they are going to swipe up. But in terms of that, the cost of running on that placement right now is quite low. The other thing people can do to help reduce their advertising costs is to there's 2 different strategies you can use for this. One is to take a post on your page that has got really great social proof, really clear call to action, great copy. If you've got really high social proof on a post, it's going to cost you less to run. Something that a guy in e-commerce is doing now is he's actually leaving his ad switched off, grabbing the link to the direct link to that ad's post and sending it out to his email list and to Messenger first. Because then he sends it out to his warm audience before he's even started running it as an ad. Right. So, the social proof on it's high, the estimated action rates on it are really, really high, and then he'll switch it on. And he's found that sort of reduced his running costs as well. Generally, obviously, that's going to work better if you've got a pretty strong community. The other thing I would say is be willing to invest some time in your retargeting audiences. I mean, yes, you can run things like video views campaigns and things like that. But if you're active in Facebook groups around your niche, if you go to sort of the gurus on Instagram in your niche and just participate in the conversation, don't show up to sell, don't show up to, say how great you are, just show up and be part of the conversation and offer something of value. There's people who are making a lot of money who actually pay people to do this full time. Just get in there and really interact on social and just build up those warm audiences and build those relationships organically. You can definitely build solid warm audience without having to go into paid traffic for that sort of top of funnel. I mean, yes, you'll get better numbers if you do it paid, but it is also possible to do that organically with a bit of a time investment to build up that warm audience from retargeting and sort of improve your conversion rates there.
Alrighty, that's good. That's awesome tips there, Jo. Thanks for that. There's great things you can do for free. Actually, there's just a lot of those things are for free. Yeah. What if they've got a bit of money to spend, though, Mitchell? What would you encourage them to do with it?
Well, yeah, even if they not even sure if they're going to start yet, like if they're thinking, oh, I might not, before they even start, especially if they have a low budget. Install the pixel on their website, Facebook pixel on the website, so they can start getting the data. So if they did want to start slow, I would probably just recommend they do retargeting and then see how they go. But the first thing that they really need to do if they do have a little bit of money to spend is they really need to know their numbers and what the objective is. So if they are selling a service, and let's hypothetically say the service is $250 a month, right? They need to say, okay, if it's $250 a month, and let's say out of that I make $150 profit after, let's say $100 is cost, right? How much of that $150 am I willing to put towards marketing? And that's what we call an acquisition cost. So if that's 50, if that's 100, who knows? It's up to them. But if it's a recurring cost, if it's a recurring service, so $250 a month, and the average client stays for 12 months, you might be able to say, okay, well, I'm willing to let go the cost of the first month to acquire that sale, and then I'll make my money in month 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you didn't have that client anyway. So it's just like getting a client in a month where you start getting paid. And that's how you can really start scaling your budget, because if you look at it as just, oh, my budget is $50 a day for ads, they see that as an expense. Oh, I've got to come up with $50 a day for ads just to be around. Where if you have an offer there where you know your numbers and you know it's going to cost you $50 to acquire a new customer, or $150, whatever it is, then it's just a scale and base. Your budget is how many customers you need that month instead of how much you want to spend. And that's when real marketing, because essentially marketing is just buying customers at a profit, or good marketing is. So yeah, and that's all it really is. So when you look at your audience and your budget, you've just got to picture, once you put in all your audience, and hypothetically, let's say your audience is 70,000 people, depending on what it is. Just imagine those in one big football stadium, and your daily budget is how many brochures you can hand out each day. So if your budget is $10 a day, you might only be able to get through one bay of that stadium, where if it's longer, you'll get through it. But it really depends on what the offer is, how big your audience is. But yeah, you first look at your numbers and figure out what your acquisition cost is before you even start.
For sure. Awesome advice. Will, do you want to add to that in any way, in terms of somebody's got a little bit of money to spend with you? What would you do? What would you encourage them to do?
Well, I think the comment was made earlier that just because we've got marketing advertising experience doesn't mean that we're going to get everything right immediately out of the box. We've got a better chance than the general public of getting it right. But you still don't know exactly what psychology is going on in the market, what appeal is going to work. So if it was me, I'd look at the most frequently asked questions that people have in the particular market that you're in. And you can use tools like Answer the Public, BuzzSumo. There's a few different things that you can do. You can do research in Google Trends as well. And I would probably run some video view campaigns answering some of those different questions. So, for example, with Facebook advertising, someone might ask, is Facebook advertising expensive?
What a question, eh?
And what a question. And you'd answer it. You wouldn't, there's lots of different answers to that. And then you'd grab a whole bunch of other questions and you'd build up the audience, you'd build up a relationship, you'd be educating them at the same time. Plus, as the business owner, you've then got some data. If you did 10 of those or 5 of those, you can then gauge the relative popularity of the topic, which gives you a lot to work with beyond that point with future ads or remarketing or lead magnet offers. It's very cheap market research.
I think that's what we're basically saying here, isn't it? That you've got to do a bit of research with this, haven't you?
Yeah,
you and I can recommend that, and that's all good. But you've also got to depends on the client and if they're confident in putting themselves on camera as well. if they were going to do a video. A lot of people are a bit shy in that sense where they don't want to put themselves out there, and they've got to look for a different avenue to do that. But yeah, I do agree that is very powerful, and you can almost build a personal touch before you have your call with them, because they've seen your face, they've heard your voice, it's already relevant. But yeah, it's just getting people to get on camera, and like these days you don't need it to be a full-blown production.
No.
You know, iPhone cameras are pretty good, and sometimes it not being like over the top, overly produced can be a bit more authentic. So
definitely, marketing that looks less like marketing is always better.
Yes, like you just put your phone on, got out of bed, you know.
That's what the American guy Frank Kern is really quite good at. He's using very sophisticated marketing, but he comes across as a good old Southern boy in everything that he does. He's really got it nailed in terms of how he does it, but behind everything he's doing, there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of psychology, NLP, all those things behind it. But it's just very, authentic in the way that he's able to get that across to the audience.
Yeah, Frank's one of those.
So have you seen the eye tracking tests where they where if something looks too glaringly like an ad or it's a stock image, you'll see people, they're so savvy to ads now and they're so blind that their eyes will just literally go straight past. Whereas if it looks like something a friend could have put up, a selfie that a friend might have posted, their eyes will take that brief pause like they do on other posts. But yeah, it's fascinating to watch that if something just screams ad, their eyes will just drop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that goes back to it being social media. That's why they're on there, and that's what they're generally expecting to find. Yes, there's advertising in it, but that's why they're there in the first place.
I think the best video presenters or salesmen, and you use Frank Kern as an example, have the ability to adapt their personality to the audience. So if their target market is small business owners that might be doing 150 grand a year, which isn't overly a lot, he can adapt so he makes them feel comfortable with them. But then if he's talking to someone who's doing 20 million a year, he can adapt his personality to that. And that's always, and a lot of people can't do that. So you don't want your audience to look at you like they think you look down on them, even though you can be a bit of a social icon. So that's very important, especially when you're dealing with customers as well. Like if your customer starts swearing on the phone, that's just part of his personality. It's okay to do that. But if you feel that they're conservative and then you start swearing, they might be turned off. So
for sure.
That's
Oh, we could talk about this all week, I'm sure. There's so much to talk about. It's so interesting, isn't it? But we have come to the end of today's show, and I've got to thank you all again for coming on the show because it's been awesome today. I'm going to be sharing this around. So just a quick shout out to where people can find you further if they want to come and talk to you about some of this stuff. You want to go first, Mitchell?
Yep, sure. So if you'd like to have a chat about any Facebook ad campaigns, you can go to lbdmarketing.com.au, and there's a free consultation booking form on that page. You can see a few case studies that we've done. But yeah, that's the best place to go.
Awesome. Joe?
Best way to reach me for work stuff is just joe@theadnomad.com. It's a digital nomad, the ad nomad. I know it's a little bit cliche, but I love it. I've actually got a free 3-week challenge coming up in July for people who want to try and DIY their ads. It's sort of suited to beginner to intermediate, but that should be really fun, I think. So yeah, Joe at theadnomad.com.
Theadnomad.com. Awesome. And Will, where do we find you?
William Siebler. Facebook or LinkedIn's probably the easiest way to find me. I've got tons of free content. I'm more than happy to provide that to anyone who wants it. I've got a 6-week business growth course that I recorded and put on Facebook. I'm happy to connect people to that. There's a lot of good stuff in that. It's completely free. But yeah, William Siebler on Facebook or Instagram. On LinkedIn.
Awesome. Yeah, you do put a lot of good stuff out, Will, for sure. And I'm going to put your PDF. You've given me a PDF to share with people, so I'm going to put that on the show notes as well. Well, I bid you farewell. Have a great day, everyone, whatever you're up to, and I'll look forward to connecting again soon.
Thanks very much, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye.